I was wide awake by 1 a.m. I was up at 2 a.m., had my very rare cup of coffee, and just started blogging for the next few hours. So I was working on this particular blog post, which is forming the foundation of today's show, applying the garometer by Australian psychologist Matthew Brown and Irish anthropologist Chris Kavanagh, the garometer, trying to apply that to Dennis Prager. So what type of person falls hard for a guru? And God forbid, there may be someone out there for whom I play a guru role. So what type of people are looking for gurus? So let me tell you about my situation when I first heard Dennis Prager. It was August of 1988. I was 21, and I was at UCLA a month before the dormitories opened up, because I'd been hobbled by chronic fatigue syndrome for the previous 7 months, and my family had suggested doctors that I could see in Southern California, and I didn't want to pay for a hotel, so I was just living out of my car, sleeping in the bushes outside a girls' softball field. And so I was feeling pretty desperate, pretty lonely. I was pretty much on my own for a month before school started. And so my primary companion was my radio. And so I listened to a lot of talk radio. And then on Saturday and Sunday nights on KBC radio, I started listening to Dennis Prager. And this voice, this commanding manner, this charisma, this confidence that spoke to me, it sounded like this was God speaking at Mount Sinai. And so I was in desperate need for a virtual friend. And I was in desperate need for a virtual father figure, because I didn't have much of a relationship with my own father. So I needed comfort, security. I needed something. All right. And so I was in a state of pretty high anxiety. I was in a state of depression. My life had just fallen apart due to my ill health. Well, all my plans amounted to nothing. I was looking for a way to try to make sense out of life. Then Dennis Prager came along, and I embraced his approach. It's like, oh yeah, God, Judaism, ethical monotheism, right? I want to enroll in the fight for good values, right? And so it was absolutely intoxicating for me, and it gave me meaning and purpose and transcendence. I had something to live for, and I felt like, I had someone, Dennis Prager, understood me and who was a good role model. And I preferred my virtual father to my real father. And I preferred my virtual friend, Dennis Prager, to many of the people that I was interacting with in real life, particularly when I went home to Northern California. I was living in an isolated part of Northern California. Desperately, I'd tuned my radio to KABC once the sun went down, so that I could try to pick up Dennis Prager's voice from Los Angeles all the way into Sacramento. It was like a lifeline for me. And so whatever the criticisms that I have of Dennis Prager today, I may very well not be here, right, without the kindness that he showed me, right, and without him enlisting me in the battle for good values and feeling like I was important. I had a role to play. I first met Dennis Prager in person on a Friday night, January 28th, 1994, in Tampa Bay, and then after he spoke Saturday morning, so that would have been January 29th, 1994. So I would have been, I think, 27 at this time. He kind of motioned me over. He was driving away in his car, and then he saw me and he just like motioned me over it. We got to talk privately for about 10 minutes, and he said, Luke, it gives me inner peace. It gives me a source of comfort that if something happens to me, that you'll be around to fight for good values. Can you imagine what that meant to me? That I was a source of comfort and peace to Dennis Prager, because I was around to fight for good values. Now, in retrospect, in 2023, I realize that Dennis Prager told this to dozens of people, probably hundreds of people. One of his favorite lines, he says to his YouTube co-host Julie Hartman, when she says, "Oh, your book changed my life," and Dennis says, "Well, if it changed your life, then it would have been worth it." And I'm sure he's used that very line to thousands of people. And for people who have high anxiety, like Julie and like me, right, those kind of lines are a lifeline. They're intoxicating. They are soothing and calming. This is a virtual friend. This is in Julie's case, it's a real life friend. But for most people who listen to Dennis Prager, it's a parasocial relationship that provides a sense of meaning, purpose, transcendence, and comfort in life. And so when I was basically bedridden from 1989 to 1994, Right? I was spending my money. All right. I spent almost all the money I had, right? Not seeking cures to my chronic fatigue syndrome. I spent almost all the money I had sending Dennis Prager tapes out to my friends who frequently didn't listen to them, who laughed at them, who said that I must be mad. And I realized now, yeah, they were right. I was mad. I was getting much of my meaning and purpose in life from my imaginary or virtual friend, Dennis Prager.